What's up, guys? Welcome to the first official video on the Coach Falcon Chess YouTube channel. Now, because it's a chess channel, it only makes sense that we talk about the most famous game in chess history for the first video. The setting is Paris, 1858. Paul Morphy, known as one of the greatest American players of all time, he's waiting for Grandmaster Adolf Anderson. He challenged him to a match, but Adolf Anderson is a teacher. And it was in the middle of the school year. He can't just leave in the middle of the school year to go play chess. So he said, I will come down in Christmas time to play you. In the meantime, Morphy wanted to stay warm. He couldn't just sit there, not play any games, get cold, and have Anderson come down. Morphy was the strongest player at the time, but you still don't want to go into a match without any practice. So he decides to play a couple matches. He's doing a bunch of different things in preparation. He's playing blindfold games in England. He's playing a lot of high-ranking officials, which is what happens in this game. He is in an opera box playing against the Duke of Brunswick, Duke Karl, and Count Usard. Now, from how the story goes with this game, Morphy did not necessarily want to play this game. He wanted to watch the opera. So he was watching the opera as the Duke and the Count were playing. They would make a move together with the black pieces. Paul Morphy would look, make a move, and then go right back to the opera. He wouldn't even pay attention to the game, and yet he created the most famous chess game in history. Now, Morphy starts with e4. Best by test. Morphy knew it then, Bobby knew it later, Magnus knows it now. Still best by test. Black plays the move e5, white goes knight to f3, and black plays d6. Now, typically you want to play knight c6, developing a piece, helping control the e5 square, and then obviously you can go into Italians, you can go into Spanishes, you can go into Scotches, you can go to Ponzianis, you can go to a million different things. But he plays d6. The Philidor's defense, totally okay, but Morphy responds in the most principled fashion with d4. If you are not going to take the time to defend the d4 square with your knight, you need to strike in the center. So, d4. And here, black already starts to go a little bit wrong with the move bishop to g4. Now, at the time, this was thought to be totally okay. Nowadays, we know that better is either knight to f6 or more commonly for what I've seen, e takes d4. And the idea, you can take either way, but we take with the queen. Knight to c6, bishop to b5, bishop to d7, and the game goes on from here. You can also even play... Oops, I just lost my mouse. You can also even play bishop b5, knight e7. There's a ton of different lines. White plays bishop to g4, and Morphy shows why this is already kind of poor with pawn takes pawn. Now, black realizes, okay, I cannot just lazily take back, because the problem is now black is going to exchange the queens and take on e5. And with that, now my bishop is hit. But not only is my bishop hit, it's also forking my knight on f7, or my pawn on f7. So if you don't defend it, c6, I can choose to take the bishop, or I can take on f7, and I'm forking your king and your rook. So afterwards, you would have to play something like bishop to e6, but now Morphy is already up a pawn. It's been like 6 moves, and they don't really want to go out that sad. So they take on f3 first. And now this is something I always give to my students, my very beginner students. Which way is the best way to take, the queen or the pawn? We want to take with the queen, quite obviously. The problem with taking with the pawn is now you have these doubled pawns. Double pawns are a problem. This first pawn cannot be protected by any pawns, and now this back pawn on f2 is stuck behind the first pawn. So you are completely slowing yourself down. And even so, in the future, if I want a castle, I just blew a hole through my roof. Now my king has absolutely no protection. The reign of the queen and the rooks are going to come down, and he is going to be crushed. So, queen takes f3. Taking back the proper way, black takes back with the pawn. And now another thing I like to give my students, what is the way you can create the maximum amount of damage? How can you try and threaten to end this game? Paul Morphy wants to go back to the opera. He doesn't want to be here. Bishop to c4. Immediately targeting the f7 pawn. The 2 weakest pawns in the position will be the f pawn, so Morphy is trying to end this game quickly. Now, black responds with good principles. Knight f6. Gary Gaspardo later called this a mistake in his book My Great Predecessors, which, if you don't have a chess book, lock in. Yeah, bishop g4. I can't believe it. I mean, nowadays, it's like e takes d4, queen takes... Hang on. Give me 1 second. Hey, do you know who I was just on the phone with? Nobody. That was just for the skit. Have you considered subscribing? Did you know it was free? And what are better things in life than free things? Plus, it just helps me out. We're just starting out here. Why don't you consider it? Now, if you don't mind. I gotta go back to this. You gotta go back to the video. Yeah. So, queen takes d4, knight c6. Better, I believe he claimed, was queen to f6, but knight to f6 is a very logical response. Developing a piece, blocking the queen from seeing the f7 square. And now Morphy has a decision to make. He can either play the move bishop to g5, developing, he can castle his king to safety, but instead, he breaks opening principle by moving the same piece twice in the opening, plays queen to b3. Queen to b3 is a nice idea. He's trying to create a battery to attack the f7 square. If you do not defend that, like let's say something like c6, bishop takes f7, king e7, queen e6, you can still get mated in the center of the board. Morphy can still end this game. And black plays a move queen to e7 to defend. Now, if you were diligent, you were paying attention, you saw queen b3, yes, it attacked the f7 pawn, but it did something else. It also attacks b7. He's forking and creating a battery in a single move. Morphy could choose now between taking b7 and e, or black has to choose between defending b7 and e7. Black chooses queen e7. You need to protect the pawn towards your king. And here Morphy plays knight c3. He decides, I don't want to take. Because after queen takes b7, black has the option queen to b4 check, forcing the trade of queens, because if you don't, whoops, that's mine. So, queen takes b4, bishop takes b4 check, you can play c3, the bishop comes back to like d6. Now, e4 is in a little bit of trouble. And Morphy could have played this, but remember, he doesn't want to be here. He wants to go back to the opera. You need to keep the queens on the board. You need to keep the most dangerous piece on the board. So, white says, fine, knight to c3, no problem. Now, you could play queen b4, but now queen takes b7 is a threat. If you play something like h6, now queen takes b7, queen to b4 no longer comes with a check. So now that rook is mine, and you are just down a rook. So, knight c3 instead. Black plays move c6. Nice idea. Holding down this d5 square, as well as the queen now covering b7. Morphy keeps developing. Bishop to g5, and here black makes a big mistake. Black is not really equipped to start attacking here. Black was very nervous about this diagonal, but they need to find a way to get their bishop out. Maybe something like queen c7, bishop d6, and castling. They need to get their pieces out. I mean, they're in a lot of trouble, but they start to attack before they're ready. b5. And now Morphy detonates sacrifice number 1. He realizes that now this diagonal is going to be a little bit soft for the king. So he sacrifices his knight. Knight takes b5. Black decides to take back. And now, not taking with the queen, bishop takes b5 check. Taking with the queen is okay, but now black could ask for an exchange of queens now that you've sacrificed the piece, and we're not really trying to do that. We take with the bishop. We take with the less valuable piece, so black cannot throw their queen in front. Now, you cannot play something like king to d8. This is way too dangerous. My rook is getting into the game. I'm going to just crush you. So instead, wow, I'm terrible at drawing errors. So bishop b5, and instead knight to d7. Bringing another piece into the game that wasn't playing, and now defending the king. But this king is going to have a really hard time trying to castle and get out of this. Now, Morphy plays a nice move here. Kind of a clean idea. He brings his king to safety, as well as putting pressure on this pinned down knight. How does he do both of those in one move? Long castle. Really nice idea. The king is now tucking itself away in the corner. This rook on d1 is now putting pressure. And here, black says, okay, my knight is completely under attack. If I play a nothing move, let's say h6, attacking the bishop, well, he can start with bishop takes d7. Now, I can't take back with the queen because I lose my queen. I can't take back with the king, so I have to play rook to d8. Now there's a discovered attack. I'm getting crushed. You could even decide to play rook takes d7, also very strong. I'm hitting the queen. If you take back with the knight, I'm taking you this way. Now this pin is even more dangerous. So he needs to add another defender, which is why he plays the move rook to d8, adding a second defender here. Now, Paul Morphy is pretty set to attack. The only way you could maybe improve your position more is like a rook lift to try and get the other rook involved, but that takes a little too much time. Paul Morphy wants to push now. He needs to find a way to break open the king. So, the main way you can see to break open the king is with this knight being glued down on d7. How do we get rid of this knight? Rook takes d7. Not bishop takes d7. We want to keep this pin alive. Bishop takes d7, rook takes d7, totally okay, but we need to keep the pin. This pin is a lot more valuable than this rook. Even though this is a 3-point piece and the rook is a 5-point piece, the fact that it is pinning and completely trapping the king increases the value of the knight. So Morphy takes with a rook. Rook takes d7. Only move. Have to take back with the rook. Like I said, if you take back with the queen, I take your queen. If you take with the knight, I take your queen this way. And you can't take with the king because that would be illegal. And then Morphy would just laugh at you. You would cry and suck. So rook takes d7. Rook takes d7. Now, this rook is now pinned. So Morphy could cash in and take this exchange back whenever he wanted. But that's not the goal. The goal is to try and obliterate the king. And Morphy was really good at absorbing his pieces towards the king. He's trying to drag everything in. How does Morphy bring in the last piece that's not playing and puts pressure on the black king? Rook 2. Now, the final piece is in the game. It's pressuring this rook on d7. And here, black plays a clever idea. Queen to e6. It's already lost for black, but this is a nice last-ditch effort. Their idea is if we count the material, rook for rook, bishop for bishop, bishop for knight, queen for queen. If we traded everything down, I would be up a rook. Now, Morphy doesn't want to trade queens. He wants to attack. And here, he finally cashes in. You could even take with the rook here if you wanted to. And after queen takes queen, pawn takes queen, now there's knight takes, and now the attack is dead. So, you have to take with the bishop. Bishop takes d7, finally cashing in for the exchange. Now, this was the second idea of moving the queen. Moving the queen relinquishes the defense of the knight. So now, knight takes d7. I can take back because I'm no longer pinned. I'm not worried about it. And here Morphy plays the move that made this game famous. He plays the move that was heard across the world, to the point where Hungarian Grandmaster Geza Maroksi stated that Morphy is in his element. The brilliant combination of sacrifices make this game one of the most beautiful achievements in the history of chess. And well, take a minute. See if you can find this. I give this to all of my students. See if you can find this move. The trick to finding moves like this is going through forcing moves. Checks, captures, attacks, even if the move looks impossible. The idea? Did you find it? Queen to b8. Really nice way to finish this game. The reason is because now you are forced to capture me with your knight. You cannot walk up to e7 as my bishop is there and Morphy would laugh at you again. And there's no way to defend these two squares. So you have to capture. But now Morphy finishes the game in style with the only two pieces he has left being down a queen and a knight. Rook to d8. Checkmate. The king is completely locked in. You still cannot go to e7 because of my bishop and my rook is defended, so you cannot capture. So that was the most famous chess game in history, known as the Opera game, where again, Paul Morphy played two guys at the same time, a duke and a count. I don't know what the difference is of that, but this game has been taught in hundreds of classrooms to thousands of students. It's probably it's the first game I ever memorized, and it's the first game a lot of chess players should know and should memorize. This queen sacrifice is one of the first that you typically see. So, if you enjoyed the content, feel free to subscribe. It's free. Not a lot of things better in life than free things. Plus, just helps me out. So, appreciate it. Have a good one. Peace.